Hello. I wanted to make a video showing how you could use the Content Package Assist program to take third-party content from just about any site, as long as that content's designed to be used in DAZ Studio, and create a install file that the DAZ Install Manager can use to not only install, but as well also to remove content from your library. I first wanted to do a very quick little overview of the steps involved for this. So if you're familiar with the program to some degree, this will be like a quick refresher just to let you give you a heads up on what's done. What you want to do is you take a file that you've downloaded from some other site. This is a character file that I've downloaded from Renderosity. And when you open it, you want to go to the files and folders that you would drag into your library for a manual install. In this case, runtime, people, and data, these three folders. You would normally just drag these into your library and all that content would get added. What you want to do is take these and put them inside of a separate folder you create called content, and then zip that folder. It has to be a .zip extension. And then with that and a few other pieces of information, such as the image, the product name, and the product ID number, you can go ahead and then install that using the, you can put that information into the Content Package Assist, and it creates an install file that you would then use the DAZ Install Manager for. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to actually show how I use this by actually doing that exact thing on this character file. And then I'm also going to do another example where I combine multiple products into a single file. Okay, the first thing you want to do is, of course, purchase the program from DAZ. After you've purchased it, you want to go ahead and go to your DAZ Install Manager and install the product that way. This will create a shortcut on your desktop. It doesn't run from within DAZ itself. This is a standalone program. Just go ahead and double-click on that to bring up the interface. I'm going to close my browser down here. And once it comes up, the first thing you want to do is go to your settings. And here you have your directories and defaults section. The directories are just folder paths where pieces of information are stored on your computer. The builds section and the packages section, these should be filled in by default. These are where the Content Package Assist program is going to use temporary storage space to build your package. You don't have to worry. These aren't going to get larger and larger over time as you work on it. These are just temporary holding spaces that get cleared out once you're done working on a package. Then there's your DAZ IM download folder. This is the location where the DAZ IM program reads files that are going to be installed into your database. I have a shortcut to that directory path because I frequently would go there and look at it. You don't have to do that. It's just I find it convenient. The last thing is the DAZ IM Manager. This is where the program itself is installed on your system. The reason we do that because there's this icon up here that you can actually launch the DAZ Install Manager directly from the Content Package Assist program. Just a handy little shortcut that makes things a little quicker for you. Finally, in the default section, the source prefix of letters IM. This should be filled in automatically, I believe. It's been a little while since I've installed it. Finally, for compatibility tags, you want to click this little checkbox over in the corner. It's probably going to be blank at first. And you'll see a list of the different programs as well as version numbers that are available that you can use as a default. You can always change these as you're creating a product. If you're using DAZ Studio and you're using a somewhat recent version, this is the one you want to select, DAZ Studio 4.5 +. So anything that's version 4.5 or newer, this is the one you want to select as your default and click Save. Then you finally have these different checkboxes. I leave all of these selected. For instance, generate manifest and generate supplemental.dsx. Those are these fields. By having these two selected in your defaults, they'll be selected here, and these are needed to create the install file. So just check everything and then click Save. And we're all set. Everything's configured, ready to start converting products. What I'm going to do now is show you how you can go ahead and adjust a product. In this case, I'm using one from Renderosity, and I'm going to make a DAZ install file for that and show you how that's done. Okay, so here's that product that I was talking about. I just purchased this recently. It's a character file for Genesis 8 female. I've downloaded the zip file from Renderosity. So the first thing I want to do is extract the files so I can get access to them. what I do is I use a program called WinRAR. It creates a few menu items when you right click on a file you'll have access to. I find these very helpful and it helps speed the process along. Choose extract to and then a folder. What this does is it'll create a folder using the name of the file that you're extracting, and it'll put all the content inside that. Just keeps it nice and organized that way. So I can go into the folder, and here you'll see all the files that I got from Renderosity. The documentation folder is not needed. That doesn't need to be installed in your library at all. It's just informational, detail. Doesn't need to be there in the library for the product to run. So the first thing I want to do is create a folder, and I'm going to call it content. Then I want to do is highlight everything except for the documentation folder. I'm just going to drag that right inside of content. And if I double click on that, you'll see there's the files that I need. So I'm going to back up, and all you have to do is, create this as a zip file. Now with WinRAR, I right click on the folder, choose add to archive. There we go. And you'll see it by default, it's going to try to create a RAR file. That's by this option here. Just need to click zip, so it creates content.zip for us. And I also check this box that says delete files after archiving. This will go ahead and create the zip file that we want, and it'll get rid of the folder so we don't have duplicate information. We just have the one file we need to deal with. All you have to do is click OK, and in a few seconds we have our zip file. Documentation is outside of it, which we're going to save. We're not going to get rid of that, but we don't need it to be in the database. Next piece of information we need is an image. I usually just grab the first image that's on the product page. You'll see this image is a really long name. So what I usually do is go ahead and I rename it promo. That's just a default name. You can call it whatever you want, but I just call every image promo because it's the promotional image. And so now we have those two pieces of information, and we're going to need a few other pieces of detail from here, but we're going to add that inside of the Content Package Assist program. So I'm just going to start that up again. There we go. And it creates this blank product tab or package tab for us. You'll see it has the prefix, the compatibility tags all filled out from those default options that we did in the settings. All we have to do is grab the content and content.zip and the promo.jpg, drag those into the window and let go, and it'll load that information in for us. Now, the two other pieces of info we need, first, we need the product ID. Renderosity, a quick way to find that is in the URL. It's right at the end. It's like a 6-digit number usually. You should just copy that, and then you paste that where it says package SKU-ID. It has a default number there. I think that auto generates when you drag content in. I like to put the actual product number in there in case I need it for whatever reason in the future. And then the product name, I just grab the product's name from the store, and I'll paste that in that field for us. The one thing I do that's different, I'll go ahead and abbreviate like if it's Genesis 3 male or Genesis 8 female, I'll just, in this case, G8F. Oops, if I type it right, that lets me know that it's a Genesis 8 female. In a case where it's a product that is like for all Genesis 8 figures, male or female, I'll just put G8 and leave it at that. That lets me know, I'm used to seeing that, so I know that's for all Genesis figures. This use sanitized product name, when that's checked, it basically removes all the spaces. If there's a hyphen, any odd characters, just uses the name and just combines it. And that's going to be included in the IM zip file name that gets generated with that. The GUID gets generated automatically when you drag your content.zip in, and the DAZ 4.5, DAZ Studio 4_5, that's from this cogwheel when we set our preferences. And we have our image, so we're all set. Now, the next thing we want to do is actually create the final file. All we have to do for that is go to the make, and then you'll see when you click make, you have two options. I always use make in DAZ IM download folder. And the reason to do that here, before I click that, I'm going to go to my DAZ IM folder. I have a shortcut for that here. Because when I'm doing this, I'm almost always going to be loading that product into my DAZ library. This is where the DAZ Install Manager reads the package from, so it installs it in the library. So it makes sense to me just to install it there. So I just click Make in DAZ IM download folder, and you'll see the progress bar is working. It's finishing off the last few files. There we go. So it's done. There's our IM file. So we're set there. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to drag a copy of this over to the folder area that I was working in. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to go ahead and delete the content.zip file that I created at first, because all our product data is in this zip file we just generated. The difference is that this is now kind of formatted so the DAZ IM program can work on it. You'll see there's the content folder that we created and has all the files inside of it. It also generates these two .dsx files, and this is what lets it work and load that information correctly into DAZ for us. I just close that out. And I'm doing this because I save all my adjusted files on my hard drive. This way I don't have to go ahead and adjust it again in the future if I need to reload it. Just gonna slide this back over here. So now we have our file that's ready to install the character into our DAZ database. For that, I'm just gonna click Open DAZ IM. Opens the program, and we wanna make sure we click Work Offline. The reason we do this is because we're not getting the data from DAZ's store. We're working on our local files. Just click Start, and it scans this folder. It'll say that it sees this package ready to install. Actually creates I guess this is something it does for preparing the install, its own DSX file. Just leave that there. You don't have to worry about that. And when you click Install, it'll go through, install that into our database, and there it goes. It removes it from this downloads folder. And that's convenient because once you get used to this, you don't need to open up the downloads folder anymore. You'll know that the product shows up in the DAZ Install Manager. When you click Install, it disappears from here and it'll show up in your actual database. So if I go to my database, if I look for Lexi, and go to the installed folders, there it is, Lexi for G8F. So that's installed. I could uninstall it just as easily. There we go. So now it's out of my database, doesn't exist anymore. If I take a copy of this, put it back in my downloads folder, refresh this little like circle of arrows, it's going to refresh. It sees that package is there. I can click install again. There we go. Now it's back in my database. So it's ready to use, makes it very easy to uninstall data. It may not seem like much if you only have a few packages, but trust me, over time, you're going to start downloading more and more. A lot of these stores have free packages available. I ran into this problem where I started having so much in my database that it was actually causing problems within DAZ. Very slow times to load, trying to look for files. Everything got very sluggish because I had so much in the database. So now I really work to try to keep my database. I'm not like really strict about it, but I try not to add billions of files into it because it's just going to cause problems. And this makes it easy to remove them. Next up, I'm going to show you how you can go ahead and do this same thing, but you can combine multiple packages into a single upload file. So you could do like a product with 3 or 4 texture files as an example. Okay, next I wanted to go ahead and show how you can combine multiple products into a single install file. And as an example here, I'm going to use a outfit that has some textures. So I'm going to copy the main file over. So if I double click on this and open up, you'll see this is care address for Genesis 3. This is the main product, and then versus care address, this is the texture add-on for it. So let me close that. What I'm going to do first is extract the data, and I'm going to put it inside a folder. So extract to, and it'll create a folder of the same name and put all the content in there. There we go. In this case, I didn't rename this image, so I'm going to do that now. Call it promo. Now for the Genesis 3 dress here, you'll see it has the same folder structure we had last time. And then the template, this is like for UV editing and stuff. We're going to leave that. That doesn't need to be in the database. Template files are for your use outside of DAZ Studio, basically, for the most part. And then the versus, this is the texture add-on. And you'll see there's 4 independent zip files and an image. So what I'm going to do, I need access to all of the content for the main dress and the textures. So I'm going to just unzip everything and put it inside this folder. So with both of them highlighted, just say extract here. It's going to go through, unzip everything, and pull all the data out. Now, by default, the 2 files I clicked on are still highlighted, so I just need to right click and say delete. So now I have my 4 new texture files. These are 4 zip files that are part of the texture. So I can highlight those and say extract here. In this case, it's saying, do I want to overwrite renderosity license.txt? This is common. You'll see this a lot with renderosity files. There's a copy of the license in each of these subfolders. So just say yes to all. And it's done. So I can then delete those. So now I have my folder structure, which I don't need the documents for, but basically this folder structure has the product and also the texture files. So all I need to do is create a new folder called content. Take these, unselect documents, and drag them into content. This is the image for the texture add-on package. So what I'm going to do is just rename this promo texture. And the reason I keep these images in here in the folder is I use these as a reference. So when I'm looking through files later on, these will all be compressed into a RAR file. And if I want to know what this looks like, I can then just double click, open up the RAR file, and I can just look at the images. But we want to go ahead and take the content folder and zip that. So we'll right click, tell it add to archive, zip, and delete all files or after archiving. And it's going through. Probably take a little bit longer because the texture files will eat up a lot of space. Looks like it's done. So now we just need to add these to the template in the content package assist to create a new product. What we're going to do is take the content.zip and promo.jpg. It only shows one picture at a time. I guess you could use Photoshop and somehow combine these if you want. I don't get that fancy. I just take the main product and drag it over. And there we go. And you see it's loaded the image there. It's put in some kind of random number. What I'm going to do is go to the store for this product. Here's the main product. And like I said, I basically will grab the information that the main product has as opposed to the texture file. There's not a right or wrong. It's just what you prefer. There we go. And then I'm going to grab the product name. And again, I make a little adjustment. Genesis 3 female. But I also, because this is a combination of the main product and a texture file, I will say add a texture. This way I know by looking at it that this already has textures in it. This gets pulled from this field, so that's fine. Everything else gets filled in automatically, so we're fine here. I'm gonna move this over, go to my DAZ downloads directory, just so we can see what's happening. Go to make in DAZ IM download. There we go. So now it's done. We have our single file that we can use. We can install this into DAZ. What I'm going to do is drag a copy of this over to this folder, my work area. Delete my content.zip because I don't need that anymore. Then I'm going to grab the name that I put for the product name, highlight everything in here. Whoops. Add to archive. I want to make sure it's a RAR and delete after archiving. The reason I'm doing this is how I store these files on my on my local backup. It's going to have the product, it's going to have the images, it's going to have the documentation, everything I need to be a good backup. And it's done. So now I can put this in my backup. If I ever need to use it again, everything will be in here ready for me to go. The last thing I want to do is just go to my DAZ Install Manager, work offline. It's going to scan the downloads folder here. It sees the one product. Tell it install. Okay, now it installed the one product, which actually contains the main product and the add-on textures that we have for it. And you could do this with, like, if there's 3 or 4, doesn't really matter how many textures or other products too. You can create your own custom ones. If you wanted to have, say, an entire living room setup. You could have like a sofa that's a separate product along with, I don't know, carpet, TV. I don't know. You could combine them all and make your own custom backups if you'd like. Hopefully that'll help out. If you have any questions, just feel free to leave them in the comments section and I'll be happy to get back to you. Thanks.